quick introduction. My name is João Victor Hassi. You can use the easiest that's for you to pronounce if you're referring to me. I usually go by Hassi or Victor if you're speaking English, for example. I'm 19 years old. I'm from the very south of Brazil, from Curitiba. And I got accepted very recently into Haverford College with a full ride scholarship. So after I applied for over 4 years of this journey of building my profile on extracurriculars and English, etc. So I'm going to talk with you guys a little more about it today. I have a presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. So this is my story, how I went here from the very south of Brazil, from like this suburb of the capital of my state, into Haverford in Philadelphia. So let's start. Well, this is my introduction once again. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Curitiba. I studied my high school at Tech PUC. Tech PUC was a small private college here in my city. I'm very, very much interested in history and politics, and I started my university degree just around the corner, and I think I'm counting the days, so like I think it's a little over 80 days. It's coming too fast. Well, let's start my history. So, I grew up in an underprivileged background. I'm the child of a single mother, and any opportunities that I wanted, I had really to fight to attain them. Studying abroad and traveling the world, of course, I think that's the dream of all of us, but it was never close to my reality. It never like touched my possibilities that I could even go abroad or do anything like that. But education very, very soon became a way, a path to overcome these financial barriers. So, due to my passion for learning and ambition to taste new experiences, I applied to many different schools to get scholarships, and I studied in private schools here in my city from the age 10 to 17. So, my reality was that I could either stay here in my neighborhood, probably study in a very local and small public school. The school evasion rates are very high in my neighborhood. There's also some violence, so it was very complicated for me to stay here. So I got scholarships in neighborhoods farther away. I had to take transport, eventually stay like over an hour in the bus just to get this better education. And there was really some like the flame inside me. I cannot like contain myself. Like I couldn't just be content with staying at this local school. I had to look for better experiences. So looking further, even with the transportation, I really, really wanted to have that better education. Here in the slide, you can see me, my little me and later me. So this is from when I was 14 years old, where my graduation from 9th grade. I got a certificate, and this is me maybe 2 or 3 years old. You can see I was more curlier then. I lost some of it, unfortunately. So my high school, like I said, was a small private high school, but I had some more experiences and possibilities than I had in my reality, my usual reality. So I started to seek these opportunities to study abroad, and this dream kind of popped up in my mind when I was around 14 to 15. But I knew that I could not obtain this dream without a lot of effort and without better possibilities and without seeking way broader possibilities than I had ever accessed before. So yeah, I could not just go to my school, even if it was private and perhaps there were more opportunities. I needed to look even further than that. So completely forget the possibilities of my local university system, because locally I would not have many possibilities. I had to look abroad. I had to look for these opportunities to volunteer, opportunities to research, and etc. So during my high school, I made sure to start to build my profile, and I chose the United States, of course, because that's the place where most scholarships are usually available to low-income students. During my high school, I started to study English by myself. I had started a little bit earlier, but by just watching movies and shows and listening to music, etc. So it was very like an osmosis process. If you're into biology, I am not, but I know that word. So it was like osmosis from this kind of content, and also maintain good relationship with my teachers. So as you know, recommendations are very important. I made sure to always be like the student that spoke in class, even if it was online, even if I wanted to play Among Us. I tried to just like answer the question in the chat or something. But with the extra time available of the pandemic, I also engaged in some extracurriculars to try to build my profile. Here are some that are named. So scientific research, MUNs, YYGS, volunteering, activism, and mentorships. I'll go a little bit further into them a little later on. So finally, I decided to apply, and I applied 2 times actually. I applied my first time in my senior year, which I got only rejections, and my second time I applied in my gap year, so last year. My first time I was in a program called Opportunity Funds from the Education USA. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're like the most important source of information on higher education in the US abroad. So they have this program where they fund some students to apply to the United States, fund some like high potential low income students. I was selected to them, so I applied to just colleges in my senior year of high school, and they funded my entire process. So through this program, I took the TOEFL, the DET, and the ACT, and I received excellent grades in all of them. However, even though I had dedicated so much time and so much mental health, as if you ever applied in senior year, you might know how draining it can be. And I just got rejections. I really could not understand what happened. I felt very lost. And for some time, I was just like wondering, as in like walking, not wondering, wondering in life, like wondering what's going on, like how do I change this? How do I move forward now that I got rejections? Because by 2022, as you can see, my life had been the application process ever since like 2020 or 2019. So it was a very draining process and also a big impact on me, all those rejections. Now looking in retrospect, to be honest, I didn't know how to tell my story. I really didn't understand who I was at that point or who I wanted. And also, I didn't build a coherent profile. So those are the kind of reflections that I could only see months later. So during my second time applying. So if you ever feel a little bit lost, time usually heals all wounds and lets us see some new perspectives. So always keep that in mind. Ongoing the application process, don't let it occupy your whole life as I did, because I'm sure I would be my time uh, dealing with these rejections, I would have been healthier if I hadn't developed such a unhealthy relationship with this dream. So always try to keep that in mind. In my second time around, 2023, I decided to take a gap year where I continued to dedicate to extracurriculars, which I had already started in high school, and also joining new ones. And I tried some new opportunities. I got only rejections in them. Maybe you've heard of UWC, which is a boarding school, all global. I was a finalist in my country, but I was not selected. I was also finalist in many other programs. We have this expression in Portuguese, estar com a mão na taça, which means like you have like one hand in the championship title and you just can't get it. That's how I felt for the longest time. But I had a different program supporting me in 2023. I had more maturity, of course, and I had a renewed understanding of my story and objectives. So I aim to build an application with a more coherent and precise profile. And I found my writing and profile was considerably better in 2023 than 2022. So if you're ever you're starting a gap year, trying to apply today, try to read your essays, try to see what's going on there, what you might have failed, see if your profile is coherent. As in, like, my story, you have to be able to tell your story, I think, in a pitch. I think most successful applications could say that. So you have to, like, maybe break down your application into just a pitch. Oh, this student from X has gone through X, does X, and wants to be X. That's it. And they'd be like, oh, and they won, I don't know, X college because X. Something really quickly. I think most universities want to read that profile. That can be breaking down into that. And from what I've seen from my friends that also got in, that's very important. So moving on, my stats. In the TOEFL, I got 106 out of 120. In the ACT, I got 31 out of 36. And on DET, I had 150 out of 160. Like I said, all of these tests were funded by me. I did not pay for any of them. I only took all of them once. I didn't retake them. I had opportunity, but I just felt like my grades were decent enough here, so I didn't do it. Looking back, if you have the possibility to maybe redo, always try to redo. And if it, of course, doesn't drain much of your time and occupies a lot of your mind, if it's healthy for you, of course, try to redo. If you have a grade, especially the ACT, if you have a 31, I didn't send the ACT. I sent in my first time applying when I didn't get in. I sent to all of them. And on the second time, I just didn't send in to any of them, not to Haverford, because their grades, like their average was 32. Once again, like the 32 to 34, 35. Once again, looking back, my advice is if you have a 31 and the grade average of the school is like 32, and you're an international student, you're low income, you come from a school maybe not a lot of people know. If you're watching this, then probably one of these fits you. You're an international student, you're low income, or any of those. So send it. A 31 ACT, being with all these different qualifiers, even if the grade average is 32, greatly increases your profile somehow. So don't worry. I mean, if maybe it's like the top universities, an Ivy League, maybe don't send. But if it's anything else, a 31 with a school that's average like 32, very much reasonable. A 31 would be out of 36, if you're not familiar with the ACT, would be something like maybe 1,420, like 1420, perhaps in the ACT, 1450, something around that like 1400 area. So it's, of course, it's not like amazing, it's not a 1600, but given our context, it's probably going to help you with most colleges, perhaps, of course, not an Ivy League, but it's important. Once again, I also didn't mention in my previous slide, but here in my first time applying, I only applied to 8 colleges. Of those 8, like 3 were Ivy Leagues and 2 were semi-competitive, and there were like 3 that were less competitive, but they didn't give a lot of scholarship. So my college list, especially the single biggest hurt in my application, because it was just too small, too competitive. There were no safeties, there were no reaches. It was just very, very difficult targets. And it's most people would say that there are no safeties if you need a full ride in the US, like I did. But there's some universities that are maybe a little easier to get in. So trying to look for that. Haverford, for example, has admission rate. I think when the cycle before mine was 14% or 16 or 12, something around that area. So, well, it's better than like, Harvard's 3%. So try to look for that. Now, my extracurriculars. I was part of Moto UN. I was a Moto UN kid for the longest time. So I won multiple awards. This is me representing Fiji, which is an island in the Pacific, or an archipelago, if you want. I was also a part of Rotary or Rotary. If you don't know Rotary is an international volunteering program that there's 3 phases, that there's like 3 parts of it inside of Rotary. There's Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, and Interact clubs. Rotary for everyone, most people are like over 40. Rotaract is for over 18, and Interact is for between 12 and 18. So I was part of Interact. Nowadays, I'm on Rotaract, but on Interact, I had the biggest opportunity to try to volunteer and have some impact in my community. So it was very, very important to me. having this opportunity, and I made some great friends. I met my best friend there. So if there's Rotary in your city, maybe try to look for them. They also have exchange programs. I could not do them because I didn't get a scholarship. I also, once again, I was just like mão na taça, like I said before. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, they're a very important way to do volunteering. And it's nice because everyone knows Rotary around the world. So if you place it in your application process, there's no doubt that admissions officer will going to recognize that name. Now, my next extracurricular, I was the leader of my school's volunteering club. We had this club before that the pandemic, like ever since the school founded, so there were like maybe 5 or 6 years of this program. The pandemic came, it ended, and as I was the leader, I had a job of like bringing it back from the ashes like a phoenix. And we did. There was me and other four in the start, and we had over like 100 volunteers by the time I left school. So I think that was my main extracurricular. I wrote an essays about it. It was very important to me. So I didn't really capitalize on that in my first application. So once again, I knew more of my profile and I started to work on that my second time applying around. The name of the club, that is volunteering club, is Pastoral Juvenil Marista, or Marist Youth Pastoral. Is part of the Marist group, which is a group of Catholic schools, but this program itself was not religious. We tried to make sure it was religious, so it's just a volunteering club with projects and events, etc. I'm personally not very religious, so it was important to me that we had this inclusion. Next one, I am an athlete. I was part of my school handball team and Corvus do volleyball club. So I competed for my school's handball team. It was very like beginners, but of course I'm not gonna say that for the universities. I'm just gonna say, oh, I'm an athlete of handball, and that's what they wanna hear. I'm not going in depth. And Corvus do Volley means the volleyball crows. So it's a local team which I basically co-founded and I'm still part of it. It's gonna hurt my heart to have to leave them soon. I was in the volleyball practice just yesterday, so it's also a big part of my life to this day. And another advice here would be that the volunteering, the handball and volleyball, both of them I started and I kept going during my gap year. The Yale, which I'm going to say afterwards, the summer program, it ended in high school, of course. Lecturing and tutoring, I kept some going afterwards. I think I did it like just maybe one in my gap year. The Hotel Interact, I kept going to. The Marist Youth Pastoral, I had to leave just after high school. So they like to see this continuity. And I think what showed maybe that I really wanted to keep going, even if I didn't have more possibilities, was specifically the sports, because I had to leave my school handball team, but I showed that I didn't just want to stop playing sports. So I joined a volleyball club after my gap year started. So I think they like to see this kind of continuity and how you make an effort to not just like stay still and let the opportunities pass you by. The next thing is the summer program. Yale Young Global Scholar Summer Program. I was part of it. It was in 2022, so it was online. Unfortunately, due to the time difference between me and Yale, it was a very inconvenient time. I had like to leave class earlier. It was a different experience. If you join today or this year or next year, whatever, this program is gonna be in person, so it will be way better. I recommend it a lot. If you're familiar, I did a PLE session, which is a political law and economics. So basically study some of those topics with university professors. So it was very interesting, but it was complicated. Of course, I'm not gonna say that in my application. I'm just gonna say, oh, I did this summer program. They don't need to know the hardships around it. And my next extracurricular here was that I was a lecturer and a tutor on current affairs at school and volunteering projects. So I lectured at my school about current affairs in the world. We approached topics as the Russia-Ukraine were in my school, and online I would do some tutoring on terrorism, LGBTQ questions, immigration, etc. And also I taught world history for some low-income students online. It was very, I really am really into history, so it's very nice to teach all the way from ancient Greece to our current world for these low income students. And on my screen there are like 6 extracurriculars, but I think like from just from what's here, there are way more, right? So the whole interaction there were way more. I think in these 6, I can like separate maybe this one into like 3. There were 3 times I volunteered, I tutored. There here was just 1, etc. But just so you can see that it looks, I try to condense it, but if you can, in your application process, try to spread it out as much as you can reasonably, of course, then try to do so. So if you have many opportunities that maybe you did in the same program, but they are very impactful, you could try to separate them if it's reasonable within your profile, etc. So now, after you've seen my application process, if you've seen how I build my profiles, curriculars, my stats, my context in my high school. Just another thing I didn't mention, my high school, no one spoke English there, so it was very hard to get information through. If that's also your case, then I recommend, and also if you don't have a mentorship or someone helping you, I had outside mentorship. Like I said, I had the opportunity funds in my 2022 first application around. My second round, I had some other programs, so they did the communication with my school. It was a Brazilian Latin American program. If your case that no one speaks English in your school and you don't know how to get information through, maybe try to build some documents like a quick guide so they can see writing the recommendations. No one in your school probably ever spoke English. No one maybe has even knows what the application is. If that's your case, you have more than like some poetic license to help them in the process. So of course, an American student would never interfere in their school's process of recommendations and documents, etc. If you're the first person to applying abroad in a school, you have some poetic license to help them. So like my teachers had no idea what to do in the recommendations. My school had no idea what to do in terms of documents. So I had to help them go through it. And I eventually got very close with my high school coordinator. He helped me very much in both times around. And we became friends even after it. So try to build a relationship because it's very important. Now, with the topic in the slide, why Haverford College? Haverford College is a small liberal arts college. It's just a little, like, it's in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I think it's Ardmore, the city, but who says they're from, like, the suburb? No, they're from Philadelphia. Every school does it. I have a friend that studies in Tufts. Tufts is in Medford, but no one says that. She studies in Boston because it sounds nicer, right? So I'm gonna study in Philadelphia, and they have so much support. I could talk about their support for the longest time. They have a low income students program. They have international students program. They give all students a 1,500 at $500 dollars in just for you to spend when you get there to try to settle in a new country. They give so much support. So everything I need to cover, they basically cover. So I'm gonna eat for free, study for free, live for free. I'm not gonna pay like a dime to them basically. I'm gonna have to do the work study, but that also gives money to me to live there. Next opportunity is the academic opportunities beyond the classroom. So almost all students, even with scholarships, they have a program abroad, or everyone does research. So it's very common, and they have so much opportunities, and I didn't see that everywhere, especially the support for low income students in those opportunities. So yeah, I really appreciate Haverford for this. The other school that I saw that also had these opportunities in my area was Vanderbilt. So if you want to study political science and maybe Latin American studies, Vanderbilt and Haverford really stood out to me in that sense. Also Dartmouth a little. So the full support. I mean, I'm looking forward to maybe studying French there. I never studied French formally before, so it's very important to me. Or maybe Arabic, because it's such an important language, and I can do maybe a summer. I think in my second to third year, maybe in France or Morocco or I don't know, Lebanon, etc. Um, the next point, I also touched a little before, is the political science Latin American studies departments are very, very strong. So if your school, maybe you go look for a niche or college board, and the biggest courses are maybe nursing, agriculture, administration, etc. That's a bit of a, if you don't want those courses, that can be a red flag. Haverford is a more liberal arts colleges, so they have many different students, many different career paths. Political science is one of their main, I think probably the biggest major in the college. So it was a green flag to me to have this strong community in my own course. Next point, the honor code and student governance. So everyone in Haverford, we have like a student run honor code. So it's not like the college dictates like some dean or some director dictates how the students must behave or their values or how the college should work. Students do that. So there's a student council that basically runs the honor code, and they have like I think maybe monthly plenaries, so like meetings and votes. I didn't see that anywhere. Other schools they have student councils, but it's usually like a more representative position. It's not so impactful or executive. Yeah, we have students that basically work in all the three branches of power at Haverford. So they're like student governance, which might be like the Senate, so it's legislative power, it's the executive power, there's a judiciary power. I think judiciary is probably with this school, but it's important how strong student involvement is for me because, like I said, I led a volunteer program in my high school, so I'd like to keep going this continuum of having impact in my school. The next point is Philadelphia. I'm obsessed with history, like I've said many, many times, but I also wanted to be close to a big city. And the biggest city that in the US are like New York, Boston, Philadelphia. There's, I think, in Florida, maybe Miami, Tampa, there's LA, there's Chicago. There are no scholarships for low income students, at least full scholarships, and in my area in California. There's like maybe Pomona if you like. It's not very very generous, at least not as Haverford. So really, my possibilities really were like maybe Boston and Philadelphia. Boston, there's like Tufts, there's Harvard. Philadelphia, there's Swarthmore, there's Haverford, there's UPenn. So I tried to look for those two cities. Chicago, there's also Northwestern University, but I didn't apply there. So eventually I got into Haverford, which is in Philadelphia, and it's a big, big city. I come from a city of 2 million people. So if you'd like to, like I did, to continue living in a big city, Haverford is a possibility. So I live maybe 30 minutes from my city center, and Haverford, there's like this metro station right in front of Haverford that goes straight into the heart of Philadelphia within like half an hour too. So I kept going that kind of distance from the center. It's not like NYU, which is in Manhattan, basically very, very much in the city. It's more distance, but it's specifically what I wanted. We also have an arboretum. There's not a photo here, unfortunately, but an arboretum is like basically woods, basically like a small park, which dedicates to maintaining some local species of plants, some native trees, and it's very, very beautiful. There are even like some foreign trees. I know there's like a cherry tree, like from those from Japan, so it's very, very pretty uh all year round. So it's very important. And the next point is how close-knit the community and many is, and there are many club options, including sports. So everyone's very close. It's a small college. I think my class will have maybe at most like 500 students. I know previous class had like I think 370 students. So as you can see, it's very small. Like not like Harvard or UPenn or these big colleges like UCLA have thousands of people in their class. We have barely make 400 or 500. So everyone knows each other. If you walk around the campus, you're definitely gonna see a familiar face, and that's kind of close knit. The community is very important to me, and it's also a continuum from other experiences of mine. So it's also maybe keeping going how my school experience was, how my Rotary experience was, and etc. And there are also many club options, including sports. So if I want to maybe join a Latino club, there's a possibility. If I want to join, maybe play volleyball or handball, or maybe rugby or lacrosse, anything. There are many opportunities, even for starters in the sport. They also have a physical education requirement, so a PD requirement, which is curious. Not a lot of colleges do have, but everyone has to do some sport at some point in their 4-year bachelor's degree. But that's very nice. My essay writing process to get into Haverford, there were 2 supplemental essays and 1 personal statement. So for Haverford, I didn't send a lot of essays, thank God, because it's tough. I had just from here what says in the slide, like I wrote maybe the PS was like 5 or 6 drafts just last year, because the year before and last year's PS were completely, there's no similarity. So I think I spent so much time in writing these essays, and if you had the possibility, also do so. It's very important to polish them. Don't do anything like really just write on. Don't procrastinate, which was maybe like the thing that hurt me the most. Even if I got accepted, it really hurt like my schedule. I had to spend some nights uh, awake and etc. So if you can avoid that. So to explain a little bit more about my personal statement, I wrote everything I learned while being raised by my single mother. So for each paragraph, I narrated a different short story that illustrated how her values and actions shaped who I am today, inspired many things in me. So I mentioned here compassion, curiosity, a political interests, and my resilience. It was a very vulnerable topic. I didn't even consider writing about it in the first time I applied, because it was just too deep in me. I hadn't that self-reflection yet or maturity to approach this, I think. But looking back, I think that's what makes a good PS. My first PS, there was no vulnerability. There was really nothing too deep about me, and that really hurt it. While my second PS, my second time applying, which is this one that I described here in the slide, it showed a lot of vulnerability, a lot of values, and a lot about me and my family. So one good rule of thumb for a PS that you can use is that you should feel a little uncomfortable sharing your story to everyone. I I'm looking like today, since I got in, I'm way more comfortable sharing my PS with people. So if anyone would like to read it, I can send it later on, or I'm even can like read a little part of it if you have time when the presentation is over. Um, but you can't be like fully comfortable sharing. Like there has to be a part of you that's a little uncomfortable sharing just because of how vulnerable it is. So if your PS, you could like post it on Instagram, you could place it everywhere with a lot of comfort. That can be a red flag, because then it shows that there's no vulnerability. And the colleges, they want to see you vulnerable. They want to see your reality. They want to see how you feel, who you value. And I think that was very clear in my PS, and that really helped me get in. I think my essay writing was perhaps the single most biggest improvement in my gap year. I use my gap year to fill the gaps, and I think my gaps, my application, were my extracurriculars and my essay writing. I worked on both of them, and they are way better today. All right. The second part of the slide is supplemental essays. I had to write just two. The first one was about an academic interest, very basic, and how I wanted to explore it in Haverford. I connected the inequalities I faced with um, I connected my personal experience with education in Brazil and how unequal it is with how I want to keep working on it at Haverford. So I connected my experience with different programs and courses and professors at Haverford so I could study that and come back here and try to maybe improve my city. The next essay was about my values and the college's values. So I linked my humanitarian work at PJM or Marist Youth Pastoral, like I said before, with the Haverford's honor code and the student governance and etc. So I linked my humanitarian work and political action with Haverford strong reliance, self-reliance, honor code, and student-led impact. Like I said, in Marist Youth Pastoral, I led this school club in having local impact, both in school and outside of school. So I connected that kind of impact and that kind of work with Haverford's possibilities and Haverford's values. So as you can see, it kind of tells a story, right? These essays. So in my first story, in my PS, I told about how I learned my compassion, how I learned curiosity, how I learned my interests and my resilience and everything. And my supplemental essays, I kind of go deeper into some of them. So I talk a lot about politics, a lot about inequality, a lot about this. And reading my supplemental essays, the admissions officer had the context of the origin of those interests. So I think it told a story which there was none in my first time applying. So try to look for this. See see your profile in the whole. What story does it tell? Right? Like what does it say? My PS said about how I faced hardships, how I came from them, what I learned. My supplemental essays said how maybe I went a little deeper into some of them. So how I face inequalities accessing specifically education, which was just hardships in the PS. I went into education in my supplemental essays. Then I went into political interest and humanitarian work. And all of them, of course, show compassion, show curiosity. So try to see the story that your essays and your profile tells. Everything was somehow connected in my profile the second time applying. The PS, the extracurriculars, the honors, the supplemental essays, everything it wasn't a clear sense, it wasn't obvious at first, but I had to reflect a lot, but it made some sense later on. And I think that's key in a good application. Here's the acceptance letter, which of course is everybody's dream of receiving one day. I have this slide here because I like to tell the story of how I learned of my acceptance letter. It was December 8th when it came out of last year. If you don't know, it's very early. Most early decision colleges, they release around like December 15th or 16th, maybe like the second or third week of December. Hereford was like the first release. It was December 8th, too early. And they said they were going to release on the Friday, December 8th, on Monday, maybe December 4th. So it was just too soon. I did not want to open it because they have an interview which I wasn't called for. So, okay, so that's it. They didn't interview me, so that's done. But the Saturday before this, they sent me an email asking for more financial documents. Oh, you'd like to see your success profile. And if you don't know, that can be like a sign that they're looking more into you. So they have an interest in accepting you. Well, I thought it was just some random thing. I didn't know it. Well, Friday came around. It was coming out 9 p.m. here in my time zone. I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna keep thinking about this. I had some work calls in the morning and in the afternoon. At night, I just thought, no, whatever, I'm just gonna go to the movies, maybe forget this for a second. So there was a movie session that started like 8:50 p.m. of the new Hunger Games. I got into the movie and it came out. But so my like phone was exploding. Like, did you get in? Did you get in? Like, how was it? I just ignored it. I watched the movie. I didn't want to deal with that at the time. And the movie ended. I went home. It was bad. I was almost robbed going home because it was dangerous. It was like almost like 1 8, no, almost like it was after 11 p.m. But I got home, then I got on my PC, I opened it with my mom, and I saw this, and I could not believe it, and it was amazing. And the best part, of course, was that even in acceptance, everyone knows the worry that can be, and you need a full ride. It's very uncertain. I opened the financial document, the financial aid document that was there, and there was like uh, cost of the college per year, $93,000. Cost of her scholarship, $93,000. So there was zero expected contribution from me or my mom or from whatever, just like work study, of course. It was very generous, and it's a very nice memory that I have to this day. The time and resources that I had the support of, it was opportunity funds for Education USA. If you're from whatever in the world, most likely there is some Education USA close to you. I don't think it's all countries, but most countries have, or maybe a neighboring country probably has some support in regard to this. Um, they have the Opportunity Funds program, which gives uh, full financial support to all students. They maybe select, I think, 20 to 30 students, at least in my country. Your country could be more, could be less, and they pay for everything in the application process. They also give a specific certified mentor with years of experience. So it's a very nice program. And also, if you're Latino, if you're Latin from Latin America, then there's LALA, Latin American Leadership Academy. They have this program, University Placement, which is basically the opportunity funds. They pay for also all students. They have a mentor. I was part of the program last year, and now I work in the program. Now I teach English there, so it's nice to keep going. Like I really wanted to look for a job before I went abroad, and I got my job because I got accepted. So it's nice this continuum, right? Like I was basically I had no college, I had no work. I was a very complicated situation here at home. Now I have a college and I am employed. Yay, it's nice. Um, yeah, also work with what I want, which is supporting low income students, of course. So before I go into the future, let me see if there's something I didn't talk about. Um, Extracurriculars. Oh, I think I didn't mention my honors anywhere, but they're very basic. I don't think I talk about my honors. Just gonna before I finish. Don't your honors they have some weight, of course, but my honors they weren't that important, right? So I had two full scholarships for for different high schools in my city. I had one in my school, like a very small and local research stipend. So like I got into some programs, but they were canceled due to COVID. Of course, you don't have to say that. You can just say, "Oh, you got into the research programs." There was a sports award, and the opportunity funds program for Education USA. It's a bit competitive, so I placed how I got into this program with, I think it's 5% acceptance rate or something like it in my country. So as you can see, they're not very big, but I knew how to tell them, right? So the sports award, wrote it in a way that could maybe make the most of it. Same thing with the opportunity funds acceptance. And like I said, for example, the research program, there was no specific research in my extracurriculars, but in my honors, I placed, oh, I won this 2 times my school, I won 2 times my school's research stipend program. And I selected it's based on grade. So I was like one of the best students of my class for the 2 years that I was able to research to maybe my like My 10th and 11th grade were only the selected students. So in both those years, I was selected. I did not go in depth of how the program was canceled or how I didn't do it or anything. You just say that you want it. So always know how to tell your story. If there's some impediment, you don't have to say that. If there's some different things, like another thing, my sports award, it was like on the beginner classification. It wasn't like the best. We won like I think gold or silver in the beginner section of the handball competition. I won a silver medal. That's what matters. It's important which ranking you are in the terms of the beginner, etc. So if they don't ask for more details, don't compromise yourself. Tell a story as it is, and know how to tell them. And if they ask, then we can give more details. Like for example, I was a beginner, I didn't do it due to COVID, etc. So know how to tell your story. That's very important in the honors and extracurriculars. Another thing, I think that's it. Oh, my school, my recommendations. Like I said, I had a very hands-on approach with my teachers and my school because no one really knew how to do it. No one spoke English, so I was very much on top of it, like supporting my teachers, telling them how they could write it, what they could talk about, and don't feel guilty for it. Some people might say like, especially in the US, it's completely like prohibited for you to even see your recommendations if you come from a context like me, low income, no opportunities, no one speaks English, etc. Then you have more than a poetic license to support it. You must support your teachers in writing this essay, these recommendations, and also your school's documents. Now that I went through all my application process for the future, at Haverford, I'll major in political science, American studies, and education. Education is probably going to be a minor. And as for my career, I aim to return to Brazil and work as a policymaker to improve our public education system and curriculum. There's this tradition in Brazil, which I learned is just from Brazil. I thought it was a more maybe Latino or bigger thing, which is painting our arms with the name of the school. I don't know, Abril, is that a thing in Peru? I don't think it is, right?
Sorry, what?
Like painting your arms with the name of the school that you got in. Is that a
No,
thing in
actually,
Peru?
it's not a thing here. But I've seen that
Really?
many Brazilians do it. I've seen like every Brazilian who gets in publish a photo with that, and I love it.
Yeah, I know. I think you probably interviewed Victoria Lage and also Steves, maybe. So they both also have the photos with the arms like this. It's a thing here in Brazil because it's a very unequal country, unequal. So having access to higher education is like this big achievement. So everyone like paints their arms. If it's like a local university, the public universities here are very competitive, especially in courses like law and medicine, psychology. So it's a very big tradition here to paint your arms to show where you got in. So I paint my arms with Haverford. I don't think that's something, if it's not even in Peru, which is like nearby, then I don't think it's anywhere else in the world too. But it's a thing here. And it's also my country's uh, football soccer shirt, as you can see. So it's also a very big here. This is the college here in the this bigger photo here, and yeah, that's it. Sagbolum is thank you in Turkmenistani. Don't worry, it's just obrigado, which is thank you in Portuguese. So thank you very much for being with me all through this. I'm gonna see if there are any questions in the chat.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. We really enjoyed this very amazing and super complete presentation. We really love it and appreciate all your dedication that you have put into it. So, guys, if you have questions, you can leave them in the chat. Anyway, I think you have explained that so well that they are like super. They have
Yeah.
understood everything. So there was something here that I saw. I think that someone asked if you applied to Haverford in the first time that you applied to college, like when you applied in your senior year.
No, I did not. Curiously, I did not. Like, I only applied to very competitive colleges and very like big. So, it was like I'm just gonna name it. Harvard, Brown, Tufts, Duke, Dartmouth, Brandeis, Boston University, and Tulane. So I didn't consider Haverford. I actually found it, but I thought their financial support was bad. For I didn't like going a lot into it and try to seek here the history of acceptances with full ride. In my case, I had a very good friend in the someone that studied in Haverford, which was from the same context as me, the suburbs, low income, small school, and they got into there. So try to see if there's anyone from your context that also got in there. It's very important. Haverford had someone, they were actually very generous with Brazilians in the class before mine. There were like 5 Brazilians with full rights, which is absurd. If you know about full rights, it's absurd. 5 people from the same country getting a full ride that was in the class before me. In my class, it was less generous. It was just me, unfortunately. But try to see that history. I didn't know at the time, but Haverford has a big history of supporting students. But that's why I applied in my second time around and not in the first time.
Awesome, then. I love to hear that. So I know you applied to Haverford through early decision, but then did you apply to regular decision too? Here they are asking how many schools did you apply to RI if you did it.
I I got into, like I said, Haverford very early, so December 8th. I was like writing essays still. I only sent to some early actions, so I sent to Stetson, Century, Vanderbilt, and U Richmond. I eventually withdrew all of them, but I sent them early because of their scholarship deadlines. So I eventually got in. Stetson has a merit. All of them have merit-based bonus for rights. So Stetson, U Richmond, Century. I'm just gonna write them in the chat if anyone wants to look more into them. Stetson, Century, U Richmond, U Richmond, and Vanderbilt. All of them have early action only merit-based scholarships, so I sent them early. Eventually, I withdrew all of them, but I was looking forward to like applying to way more because the program that I was supported even like 20 or even more if you wanted to apply. So I was looking for like Northwestern, Dartmouth, Brown not really, but Pomona, Claremont McKenna, maybe Swarthmore even. What else? UPenn, because it's very big in political science. So I applied to very few. I think it was just like maybe 4 or 5 at most. But that's because I got into very early. I would probably have applied to way more for regular decision.
Yeah, so some. I love to hear that. Let me check if there are more questions. Here, Joy is asking if does Haverford College cater for everything, including your flights?
They cover for everything the moment I step into college. Unfortunately, going there, they don't cover my tickets and the visa. If you know, there are two prices to pay. There's one that's $180, and the one that's exclusive to students that were going to an F1 visa, which is the Savis uh, tax. It's $350, which is very expensive. That Haverford covers. Thank God they covered that cost. The $180 I'll have to pay, and also my flight. But the moment I get there, they give me stipends to like live and buy food and buy things for my room and etc. So unfortunately, before I go, it's not everything, but the moment I get there, it's honestly a big relief to not care for this because financial aspect is a big burden on my family and on me. So having this kind of cover, if that's also your case, Haverford is a very big, very supportive college.
Yes, it seems so. I love that. So here Dina is asking, well, should I consider applying to Haverford for an engineering major?
Engineering, you said?
Yeah, engineering major.
Engineering. Uh, the STEM possibilities in Haverford, I don't think they're as present as some other places else. So if you're looking, the thing is for colleges, STEM courses, most colleges are very competitive. So I would say for maybe Rice, I know a full rider student there from Brazil called Jose. or Jose, which is his go to STEM. Johns Hopkins, also, if you're looking for biomedical engineering. Haverford College itself, it's a small liberal arts college. So if you like to study maybe something around computer science, engineering, that's a possibility. But you also have to keep in mind that you should study there. You're probably going to study something else alongside it. Maybe a double major in, I don't know, linguistics and engineering as a possibility, for example. So it's not very big there, the STEM courses. I would, if you have a choice, I recommend looking for colleges that also give big support and maybe are the same acceptance rate, that are stronger in STEM. Of my mind, I can tell Rice, which is unfortunately very hard. Duke also more competitive. MIT, of course, very competitive. Maybe Caltech, Georgia Tech, all of these give some kind of support. Johns Hopkins is also very strong. Um, off the top of my head, that's the ones I would go. But if you don't know, liberal arts colleges, you have 4 years, and it's a lot of academic freedom. So you can study many different topics. So if you're looking for just engineering, most colleges that are focused on STEM courses are liberal arts. They're research colleges. But as a core curriculum, there are certain courses you have to take to graduate in engineering. So it's a different dynamic from Haverford and other liberal arts colleges like Swarthmore, Williams, etc. Amherst. So if you're looking for engineering, it's a possibility, definitely. As if you like want engineering with a little bit of extra other courses, maybe double major, something in the humanities, there it's a possibility. I would recommend it. Otherwise, if it's just engineering, maybe look somewhere else.